So, if you're like me, you probably like talking about prospects. And I'll be honest here, I acknowledge that unfortunately on this YouTube channel, we haven't been making too many prospect videos compared to, let's just say, 5 years ago, for example. But that is not going to dissuade me from responding to this list and getting some discourse going, because we really need to talk about this post made by Steve Dryden on TSN. Take a look at this. TSN's top 50 U24 hockey players. Headlined, of course, by Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard, and Matthew Schaefer. Now, here's the thing. This is a list of 50 guys in the NHL, not in the NHL, what have you, just any hockey player under 24 is included here. We could go through the entire song and dance and talk about all 50 names, but that would take forever. I just wanted to talk about how weird the list was in general, because it's kind of weird. So let's go out there and take a look at this over here. It'll be linked in the description if you want to dive into the entire list yourself. But TSN's top 50 U24 players go as follows. 1, you've got Macklin Celebrini. 2, you've got Connor Bedard. Matt Schaefer is number 3, followed up by Leo Carlsson, Lane Hutson, Ivan Demidov, Lucas Raymond, Wyatt Johnston, Jake Sanderson, and Tim Stützle. Now, right off the bat, Stützle under Sanderson. Interesting. Sens fans, y'all can debate about that in the comment section below. But the list gets quite interesting once you go past 10 and beyond. Brock Faber, Luke Hughes, Logan Cooley, Matt Nyes is 14, Cutter Gauthier 15, Seth Jarvis, Frank Nazar, Zeev Buium, Adam Fantilli, Dylan Genther is over here, not to mention Ryan Leonard. And then we find the very first non-NHL player. Number 22, it is Washington Capitals draftee Cole Hutson of Boston University in the NCAA. He is ranked here as the number 1 A prospect, and you can see there are letter grades for all of these guys. Only 6 names have AAA as their grade. You have a bunch of AAs, and then Cole Hutson starts out the list of A's, followed up by a bunch of other guys that are in the NHL, some are not. Mishkov, Will Smith, Michael Misa, Anton Frondell is over here, so that's a pretty big get for the Chicago Blackhawks. Beckett Seneca, Juraj Slafkovsky, so there you go. Montreal's first overall Juraj Slafkovsky is all the way down there at number 28 on the top 50 U24 players list, followed up by Porter Martone and Trey Augustine. Jacob Fowler is over here afterwards, so hey, Montreal and Detroit goaltending prospects ranking pretty highly on this list. Then you scroll down a little bit more, Caleb Desnoyers, Sam Dickinson, Zane Parekh is number 34, Brady Martin is 35, and then we start getting into the end game here. Igor Shurin is 36, Ben Kindel, who is currently a Pittsburgh Penguin, is 37, James Hagens out of the Islander system is 38, followed up by Jimmy Snuggerud and William Eklund, Simon Edvinsson, Mason McTavish, Sam Renzel, Owen Power, Axel Sandin Pellikka, Artyom Levshunov, Brent Clark, Kaiden Guhle, Quinton Byfield, and Tom Wilander. Now, that's the entire list. I didn't want to dive into every single name, analyze everybody over here, but really, the list gets a little weird when you start projecting values of younger guys and trying to put them against players that are legitimate NHL studs today. I mean, seeing Quinton Byfield at number 49 is kind of interesting in my opinion. He's 23 years old, so he is at the tail end of this list. But would you go out there and say that out of U24 players that exist in hockey today, Quinton Byfield is 49th out of 50? You might have to say that the writers of the article are getting kind of ageist here. Are they punishing Quinton Byfield because he is already so old and he isn't as young as the other players that are also receiving an A grade? This list was posted onto the R Hockey subreddit, and I wanted to dive into some of the comments over there because there are some really interesting points that are brought up. TSN ranks the top 50 U24 players. It's the exact same list that we had just looked at. Why is it so hard for my brain to comprehend that Seth Jarvis is only 23? Yeah, okay, that's something that I think we should acknowledge. Yeah, Seth Jarvis is pretty young. Still a very, very young forward with a lot more years to go. Lots to unpack with this, but my biggest takeaway is that somehow Byfield is behind 9 guys who haven't even played in the NHL yet. Seems crazy to me. No Pianist 4407 says, but those 9 guys could be anything. They could even be as good as Quinton Byfield. I think the list biases too much on quote-unquote younger equals more potential, rather than looking at the realistic outcomes for these players. But also, the article doesn't list any methodology, so it's likely just vibes, and players for either small market or Western Coast teams get downgraded for the sin of not enough primetime games, which is a skill issue, probably. I think your take is right, but it's still hard to wrap my mind around that as a bona fide Quinton Byfield enjoyer. The dude is very good. And just to prove a point, let's go out there and take a look at QB Quinton Byfield, because he has been pretty good this season. He is almost at a point per game. He's got 17 points in 20 games, so just under there, but still, he's on pace for 69 points. I think there are a lot of guys on the list of top 50 U24 players that will not eclipse 69 points in an NHL season. I mean, that's a pretty conservative estimate, I would say. But I think it just bleeds into this idea that says, oh yeah, Quinton Byfield is near the bottom of this list because he is one of the oldest guys on it. Because he's 23, and because, let's just say, Anton Frondell is 18, even though they have the same grade, is a difference of 5 years enough to pull Anton Frondell all the way to 26th overall while leaving Quinton Byfield at 49. And that's not even to talk about some of the other names here, specifically on LA. You can say, hey, why is Brandt Clark 47 and QB is 49? Isn't Quinton Byfield, like, better at this stage? I do think there is an emphasis on youth being able to provide value, and there's this idea that young guys have more potential, therefore they should be ranked higher, but then that gets negated when you see that Artyom Levshunov, who is 19, is ranked at number 46. I get that he is a different kind of defenseman, and he's not necessarily going to provide, like, Zach Werenski or Quinn Hughes level production, but Levshunov is super young, and he's already a pretty good player in Chicago. I have a hard time putting him at number 46 of top 50 U24 players. Like, Trey Augustine and Jacob Fowler, goalies in the NCAA and the AHL, is that good enough to improve on Artyom Levshunov by 15 spots? I don't know, man. The values are all over the place. I will say, at the end of the day, the guys at the very top probably deserve to be there the most. Celebrini, Bedard, Schaefer, yeah, you really can't go wrong with that. Leo Carlsson, Hutson, Demidov, you really can't go wrong with that either. I would argue that Tim Stützle probably belongs in that conversation as well. Wyatt Johnston has been super good this season for Dallas, so I do think that you can acknowledge him a little bit more too. But I get it. There are only 50 spots. There are only so many names to go out there and talk about. It's just the inclusion of guys, not even in the NCAA, or not even in the NHL right now, makes it a little bit more difficult to fully take seriously, especially when you look at some of the guys that they are ranked above. Like Kaiden Guhle, for example, is at the near bottom of the list. And I would probably argue that he's better than some of these guys that are ranked a little bit higher than him. And even if you can say, oh yeah, well, if James Hagens comes into the NHL and fulfills his potential, he's probably better than Guhle. Yeah, I'd agree with that sentiment, but the likelihood of him doing that isn't as high as the likelihood of Guhle continuing to be as good as Guhle is in 2025 and into the future. Do you kind of get what I'm saying here? It's a weird semantics thing. There's a lot of nuance, but ultimately, this list will be linked in the description for all of your viewing pleasure. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the TSN Top 50 U24 Players list? From Celebrini all the way to Tom Wielander at number 50, which, by the way, I actually don't have a problem with. I think Wielander at that spot is fine. But if you want to let me know your thoughts in the comment section, hey, it's your prerogative. Go out there and get some conversations going. Thoughts in the comment section about this list over here. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.